What if I told you that sleep isn't what you think it is? That it's not the end of your awareness, but the beginning of something far more vast, far more sacred. You've been taught that when your head hits the pillow and your eyes close, everything powers down, that the mind goes offline. That sleep is merely a biological reset button, meant to restore the body so it can endure another day. But what if that's only the surface of the truth? What if beneath the stillness of your breath, beneath the softness of your sheets, something ancient and eternal begins to stir? You see, the illusion isn't just that sleep is unconsciousness. The illusion is that consciousness ever stops, that it ever belongs solely to the body. Modern science has given you charts of brainwaves and stages of REM and theories of memory consolidation. It's explained sleep in mechanical terms, reducing the mystery to synapses and chemical cycles. And while that has its place, it misses the most important part, the part no machine can measure. Your soul does not sleep. In fact, when your physical senses fade, when the world of form slips into shadow and your body releases its grip on the waking world, that is when your soul begins to awaken. The deeper part of you, the timeless you, the one that existed before this body and will exist long after it, emerges. It steps beyond the veil of this physical reality and returns to where it always belonged. You've felt it, haven't you? That strange sensation of floating right before you fall asleep, the moment when your body feels heavy, but something inside you feels light, like it's lifting. That's not your imagination. That's not just a relaxation response. That's your consciousness pulling away from the physical anchor of your body, loosening its grip on the world you think is real so it can return to the world you've forgotten. The ancients knew this well. In many traditions across time, from the deep deserts to the hidden temples, from the sacred forests to mountain sanctuaries, sleep was never seen as an ending. It was a return, a homecoming, a nightly pilgrimage. They believed that your soul didn't just rest while you slept. It journeyed, it reconnected, it remembered. But somewhere along the way, that knowing was buried. The world changed. Lights stayed on later. Noise filled the silence. You were taught that sleep is just recovery, that dreams are nonsense, that anything beyond the material is fantasy. And so now, every night, you pass through this sacred doorway without even realizing it. You lie down, you close your eyes, and as your muscles soften and your breath slows, your soul gently begins its retreat from the dense reality of form. It's like a bird returning to the sky after being caged all day, quietly, naturally, inevitably. The illusion is that you're going unconscious, but what's really happening is that you're waking up, just not in the way you've been taught to recognize. In the waking world, you operate through filters, your senses, your judgments, your memories, your beliefs. You move through time, you follow rules, you navigate space. But when you sleep, those filters dissolve. The body quiets, and the soul is no longer restrained by gravity, by language, by identity, and in that freedom, it travels. Some people remember fragments of those travels. They call them dreams, but for most, the memory fades like breath on a mirror. The moment your alarm goes off, the moment your attention snaps back into this world, the bridge collapses. You return to this physical timeline, and the soul's journey becomes a blur, a whisper, a strange emotion you can't explain. But just because you don't remember it doesn't mean it didn't happen. The truth is, you've been taught to forget. You've been conditioned to dismiss. You're told that if you can't prove it, if you can't record it, it must not be real. But your soul doesn't speak in proof. It speaks in resonance, in energy, in feeling. And every night, while your body lies still, your soul is in motion, visiting realms, receiving insights, reconnecting with Source. You may think sleep is a passive state, but your soul is anything but passive. It's dynamic, curious, expansive. And when the body steps aside, your deeper self takes the wheel. Sometimes it explores, sometimes it heals, sometimes it receives training, messages, or prepares for what lies ahead. And sometimes it simply rests in the silence of home, a silence that's not empty, but full of knowing. There's a reason why so many of your biggest breakthroughs come in the morning, why your intuition feels sharpest just after waking, or why certain dreams linger with a strange authority. It's because something real happened, not in your imagination, but in your soul's experience. And what you call a dream might be a memory from another plane. The truth is, you are far more than the person who walks through the day. You are a traveler of unseen dimensions, a witness to light and sound that have no name in this world. You are a participant in something cosmic, something sacred, something timeless. And sleep is your invitation to remember. So the next time you prepare for sleep, try this. Don't think of it as the end of your day. Think of it as the beginning of your return. As a sacred ritual, not a routine. As a departure, not a collapse. Ask yourself, where will my soul go tonight? What will it see? What will it know that my waking mind cannot grasp? And most of all, what if sleep is the one place where your soul is finally free? Because the illusion is that sleep is unconscious, but in truth, it's the gateway, not to darkness, but to truth, not to forgetfulness, but to remembrance, not to escape, but to return. And once you begin to treat sleep as sacred, as a doorway your soul walks through each night, something will shift, not just in your dreams, but in your waking life. You'll begin to feel the threads between worlds, you'll sense the presence of something more, and one day, you'll realize that you were never alone in the night. That every breath you took while asleep was accompanied by a presence that knew you, not as a body, not as a mind, but as light, as awareness, as soul. And that changes everything. Close your eyes, and you feel it begin, the soft unraveling of what you thought was reality, that subtle disconnection from gravity, from noise, from the shape of your name. You lie still in bed, maybe unaware, maybe halfway between thoughts, but something within you begins to move. Not your limbs, not your breath, something deeper. A loosening of tether, a departure that leaves no trace on the pillow. You call it falling asleep, but the truth is far more extraordinary. It is not a fall, it is a crossing. The moment you begin to drift off, you're not shutting down, you're slipping through. Through what? Through a threshold, far older than your body, more ancient than language. This threshold lies between what the world calls awake and what your soul remembers as home. In this in-between, the veil thins. The illusion of form begins to fade. The noise of thought grows distant. And awareness, your truest, most eternal part, begins to detach itself from the heavy machinery of the physical world. Your body stays behind, your awareness doesn't. While muscles relax and your heart rate slows, the deepest part of you begins its silent migration. It doesn't need effort, it doesn't ask permission, it simply begins. You've done this every night of your life, and yet most of the time you forget. You've called it dreaming, escaping, resting, but your soul knows it differently. This is the moment where the masquerade ends, and your essence slips into something real, not metaphorically real, spiritually, cosmically, vibrationally real. What you call sleep, your soul calls return. You are not losing consciousness. You are shifting it. The shift is so seamless that most of the time, you never even notice. But the ones who do, those rare nights, when you feel yourself floating before the dream begins, or when you hear a whisper before your body fully fades, those moments are your soul brushing up against the veil and pulling you through. The threshold is not a place you can photograph. It is not a hallway or a tunnel, though ancient mystics spoke of it in such ways. It is a shift in vibration, a soft elevation of frequency. 1 second you are anchored in your bed. The next, your awareness is suspended in an invisible realm, where time no longer behaves like a ruler and space begins to melt into symbol and meaning. It is the great pause between two worlds. The moment your feet lift from gravity, and your spirit begins to remember what it truly is. The body never notices. It continues its nightly rituals, heartbeat, temperature, chemical processes. It believes it is resting, but you, the real you, are awakening. No longer confined to skin and bones. You are shape-shifting, not into something else, but back into what you always were before the world told you otherwise. Your soul is not bound by clocks, obligations, or the geography of cities. It is boundless, limitless, uncontained. And, as the veil thins, you remember, at least for a flicker, how natural it feels to be everywhere and nowhere at once. This is the great crossing. It happens in silence. No trumpets, no fanfare, only stillness, a sacred stillness the world rarely honors. And yet every night, millions cross it without knowing. Some slip gently, like a feather caught in a breeze. Others are dragged, heavy with the weight of mind and worry. But all of them pass through the same sacred gateway. Whether remembered or not, the soul always knows its way back. The threshold between waking and sleep has been called many things across time: the bridge, the portal, the passage. But it's more than a poetic metaphor. It is real. It is the shimmering veil between illusion and essence. The moment when thought becomes energy, and energy becomes movement, and movement becomes soul travel. You may think you are dreaming random images from the subconscious. But your subconscious is just the echo chamber of something far older. You are not watching illusions, you are entering realms. And if you have ever felt yourself slip, if you have ever noticed the moment you were both inside your body and above it, then you have touched this threshold. You have known the truth, that what you call reality is only one layer, the thinnest one, the layer you wear for convenience. But beneath it, within it, beyond it, is something else. A terrain your soul navigates with ease, even as your conscious mind forgets. There are some nights you cross without resistance. These are the nights you awaken feeling like you've returned from somewhere unspoken, when a quiet knowing lingers in your chest, even if you can't explain why. You might call it déjà vu, or a strange sense of clarity. But it's more than that. It's the afterglow of soul travel, a residue of remembrance that sticks to your bones and whispers. You were somewhere else, and it was real. You have never been bound to this body. You are simply borrowing it. And when you sleep, you let it rest. But your soul does not need rest, it needs room. And the threshold between worlds is the space where it stretches, expands, returns. If you learn to notice it, if you learn to listen to the hum just before dreams begin, you can follow yourself into the realm where truth is not spoken, but known, where identity becomes fluid, and form is merely suggestion. The threshold teaches you that consciousness is not a switch, it is a current, and when you move with it, when you surrender to its rhythm, you begin to feel what the waking world has tried to numb out of you. You feel the presence of things unseen, the movement of energy beyond the skin, the light behind your closed eyes that has nothing to do with the Sunday most people forget, not because they are incapable, but because they've been trained to see sleep as silence, as nothingness, trained to dismiss the whispers that come before dreams as nonsense. But if you pause, just for a moment, as you begin to drift, you'll notice it, the shift, the change in atmosphere, the vibration that signals you are entering somewhere sacred. This is where the journey begins, not when the dream begins, but when the veil parts, and you, who thought you were just falling asleep, are actually rising beyond the body, beyond identity, beyond thought. You are entering the place your soul calls home. And once you know how to cross the threshold with awareness, you will never see sleep the same way again, because you will remember what the world has forgotten, that the moment you drift into sleep is not the end of your day, it is the beginning of your truth. What if I told you that sleep used to be considered sacred, that in another time, in other civilizations, it was treated not as a biological necessity, but as a spiritual ceremony? That long before modern science reduced it to cycles and waves, sleep was honored as a nightly return to the divine. You've inherited a world that sees the night as a break in consciousness, as a time to disconnect, but the ancients saw it as the exact opposite. For them, sleep was not about forgetting, it was about remembering. In the temples of ancient Egypt, sleep was a doorway to prophecy. The priests and initiates believed that when the body rested, the soul re-entered its original home, the eternal. They had a name for it, the Ka, the double, the subtle self. They believed this essence slipped from the body at night, moving through realms, retrieving knowledge, receiving visions, and sometimes returning with sacred instruction. Sleep wasn't accidental, it was intentional, it was guided, structured, ritualized. You didn't just fall asleep, you were prepared for it, through oils, symbols, prayers, and geometry. Some temples were built specifically for dream work. These were known as dream sanctuaries or incubation chambers. In these places, seekers came not to escape their lives, but to transcend them. They would fast, purify, pray, and then lay down in complete stillness, asking for messages from the divine. They didn't see dreams as nonsense or neural misfires. They saw them as scrolls written in light. And sleep was the language in which the gods spoke. The Tibetans understood this too. Through the ancient practice of dream yoga, they trained not only to remain conscious while dreaming, but to use the dream state as a tool for awakening. To them, the world of form and the world of dreams were not separate. They were different frequencies of the same ultimate truth. What you learn in one, you bring to the other. So while most people drift into sleep unconsciously, the Tibetan practitioners would breathe intentionally, shift their awareness inward, and become lucid not just inside their dreams, but within their soul. This was not entertainment, it was evolution. They mapped the subtle landscapes of the night, like cartographers of the inner world. They spoke of tunnels, doorways, lights, guardians, and teachers. These weren't metaphors, they were experiences. What you call a dream, they called a journey, and they believed your performance in the dream world affected your growth in the waking world. Every night was an exam, every sleep a sacred school. The indigenous peoples of the Americas had their own sacred understanding. Among many tribes, the dream was not personal, it was communal. The elders would listen to dreams the way they listened to the wind, as messages from the ancestors, the spirits, the earth itself. A powerful dream could alter a decision, guide a hunt, initiate a rite of passage. Young warriors were trained to cultivate their dreams, to travel to the realms where spirit animals spoke and the future revealed itself in metaphor. In their view, sleep was a sacred council meeting. The body rested so the soul could walk among the unseen, not just to learn, but to contribute, to weave its presence into the vast spiritual fabric that connected all things. And if a dream was forgotten, it wasn't brushed off. It was respected as a mystery not yet meant to be revealed. Now compare that to how we treat sleep today. You close your laptop, you silence your phone, maybe you scroll a bit longer until your eyes can't stay open. You collapse into unconsciousness, hoping for enough hours to feel human again. There is no ritual, no intention, no preparation. You've been taught that sleep is the mind's off switch, but your ancestors knew it was your soul's on switch. There were maps, not just of the stars, but of the inner sky, astral maps, energetic landscapes drawn not on paper, but in the memory of mystics and seekers who left their bodies intentionally, who returned from these inner travels with knowledge that defied explanation. They spoke of silver cords, luminous threads connecting the soul to the body like a tether. They described otherworldly cities, realms of learning, temples made of sound and light, places where thought became form and intention, moved faster than time. And they weren't hallucinating. They were participating in a lineage of night travelers, of soul voyagers. These weren't accidents, they were initiations. But today, if someone speaks of traveling in dreams, we call it strange. If a child says they flew, we smile and dismiss it. But what if they were telling the truth? What if the sky they saw wasn't fantasy, but a realm we've forgotten how to see? These ancient technologies weren't built of wires and metal. They were built of breath, focus, sound, and frequency. They used mantras like keys, chakras like energy hubs, and intention like propulsion. The training didn't involve coding software. It involved coding consciousness, learning to hold awareness beyond the body, beyond the senses, beyond logic. What the ancients knew, and what we've forgotten, is that sleep is not downtime. It is portal time. It is where the deepest part of you takes the wheel. And just because modern science hasn't created a device to track these travels doesn't mean they don't happen. The proof isn't in a graph. It's in the strange emotion you wake with, the dream that haunts you for days, the name you remember even though you've never heard it before, the feeling that someone visited you, and the certainty that they were real. You carry these fragments back with you, every morning. Most of the time, they dissolve within minutes, but sometimes, they stick, a feeling, a color, a message. These are the souvenirs of your soul's journey, echoes of realms you don't have words for, yet. And if you begin to honor sleep as the ancients did, if you begin to approach it with reverence instead of routine, something changes. You stop falling asleep and start entering sleep. You begin to notice the space between thoughts, the vibration before the dream, and eventually, you will remember. Not just what you saw, but who you are when you see it. You were never meant to sleep just to survive. You were meant to sleep to awaken, to evolve, to travel, to remember. And once you begin to reclaim the ancient secrets of night travel, you stop being a passenger and become a navigator. Because your soul never needed permission to fly. Only your awareness did. And now, it's time to lift off. When your eyes close at night, something far more profound begins than rest. You may think you're simply shutting off the lights of the world, winding down from the demands of the day, letting go of the external noise so your body can recover. But something deeper happens beneath the surface, behind the curtain of thought, and beyond what your physical senses can perceive. What you call going to sleep is actually the activation of an ancient technology inside you, one that awakens when the external world dims. Your physical body, yes, it rests. It releases tension, organs slow, muscles soften, breathing deepens. On the surface, it appears you've entered a passive state. But while your body sinks into stillness, something else within you begins to stir. A second layer comes online, the dream space. Here, stories unfold in fractured symbols, timelines warp, and reality bends into surreal shapes. This is the territory most are familiar with, the realm of subconscious unraveling. But even this isn't the full truth. It's only the middle layer. There is a deeper space still, a space your soul recognizes instantly, though your mind may forget it by morning. Beyond dreams, beyond the subconscious projections and metaphor-laced visions, exists the soul space. This is where the real work happens. The true movement. The energy body, the part of you untouched by decay or time, awakens. It takes the reins, and when it does, perception begins to expand past anything your five senses could possibly interpret. This is not a metaphor. You don't just imagine while you sleep. You travel, you receive, you remember. The realms you enter are not made up by your mind, they're accessed by it. You've been trained to believe that sleep is just a nightly dip into mental static, a theater of subconscious fears and unresolved feelings. But the truth is much more potent. What happens when your eyes close is not psychological. It's spiritual. Your consciousness begins to unhook itself from the density of form. At first, you may not notice. There's no dramatic sound or cinematic transition. It happens subtly, a feeling of floating, a release of pressure behind the eyes, a drift of awareness, like a ship slipping silently from a harbor. And then it begins. Your senses shift. Not the ones you're used to, sight, smell, sound, but deeper senses. The ones your soul has always known but your brain has been taught to ignore. You start to perceive colors, not as wavelengths, but as meanings. A field of indigo might not be a sky or a dream, it may be a lesson. You feel emotions, not in reaction to thoughts, but as entire landscapes of energy. Grief may appear as a low humming fog, joy as liquid gold that moves through your chest. You communicate without speaking, through vibration, resonance, presence. You remember faces you've never seen in waking life but feel like home, places that don't exist on any map, yet feel older than Earth itself. These are not hallucinations. They are not dreams in the trivial sense. They are energetic experiences, filtered through the only language your sleeping mind understands. Symbol. But even the symbols hold keys. That staircase you always climb, the repeating numbers, the familiar stranger, these are not meaningless fragments. They are echoes from the soul space, glimpses into the terrain your energy body walks every single night. And the energy body, your subtle self, is not limited by time, gravity, or the linear mind. When your eyes close and the deeper layers activate, your energy body begins to navigate dimensions. This isn't science fiction, it's spiritual architecture. Your inner being is equipped with sensory mechanisms that don't rely on flesh. It perceives frequency, it sees through essence, it moves through thought structures and vibration networks. Where the physical body rests in one place, your energetic self moves through realms you've only touched in dreams. And yet, most people never notice. Why? Because they've been trained to treat sleep as a pause button, a blackout, a necessary biological function, but nothing more. But the ancient world knew differently. They didn't see sleep as inactivity. They saw it as initiation, a rite of passage the soul takes each night, a rehearsal for death, a return to the ether. Because that's what's really happening. Every time your eyes close, you undergo a micro-death, a temporary dissolution of ego, and a quiet reunion with the eternal self. Your brain enters different waves, alpha, then theta, then delta. But those are only the biological shadows of something more profound. Those frequencies don't cause your soul journey, they reflect it. Like footprints left in snow, they are evidence of the travel, not the traveler itself. The real journey begins when the mind's grip loosens and the soul takes flight. Some nights, you may simply float, receiving healing, recalibrating, restoring balance to the systems you strained during the day. Other nights, your soul is active, visiting other realms, assisting other beings, absorbing teachings you're not yet ready to recall. And there are nights, rare but potent, when you return to your own ancient memories. Not memories from this life, but fragments from other timelines, other incarnations, other aspects of self. You wake up from those nights and can't explain it. You feel different, but you don't know why. You carry a strange peace, or a heavy knowing. A name might echo in your head, a song you've never heard might replay over and over. These are not glitches. They are remnants from the soul space. Breadcrumbs your higher self leaves behind to remind you that something sacred happened while the world thought you were just asleep. And while you may forget the details, your energy body does not. It carries the essence forward. That subtle shift in intuition, the clarity that shows up in the middle of the day, the dream that won't leave you alone, the spontaneous moment of inspiration, all of it traces back to the moment your eyes closed and your soul opened. So, what really happens when your eyes close? Everything. You dissolve into the field. You return to the origin point. You connect with the dimension where all things exist at once, and none of them demand proof. You don't disappear. You remember. You don't shut off. You tune in. The body rests. The soul resumes. And in this space beyond space, where colors speak and silence teaches, where geometry moves like thought and time bends into spirals, you begin to operate with a level of perception so vast, so subtle, so precise that your waking self can barely comprehend it. But your soul does, it always has, and every time your eyes close, it rejoices. Because here, finally, it can breathe, it can stretch, it can move without resistance. Here, it is not limited by language or logic or the inherited programs of your waking culture. Here, it is free, and in that freedom, healing happens. Guidance flows, truth rises to the surface, even if it takes days or weeks to bloom in your conscious awareness. This is why sleep is sacred, not because it refreshes the body, but because it reveals the soul. It is the most honest time you will ever have, the most unfiltered, the most connected. And when you start to honor that truth, when you stop dismissing your dreams as random noise and start treating sleep as a spiritual journey, your entire relationship with the unseen begins to transform. Because what your soul really sees when your eyes close is not darkness. It is light, just not the kind you see with eyes. It's the light of origin, the light of memory, the light of who you've always been, waiting for you beyond the veil. And the more you remember that, the more you carry it with you, into the morning, into your choices, into your life. There's a moment, so subtle most people miss it, when the body releases its grip on this world and the soul begins to drift. It doesn't make a sound. There's no jolt, no thunderclap, no flash of light. It happens in the stillness, in the space between thoughts. One breath fades into another, your limbs grow heavy, and your awareness begins to dissolve like sugar in water. But underneath that fading, something else is waking up. This is the sacred exhale of the soul, the quiet release from gravity's hold. As your body settles deeper into rest, your consciousness begins to loosen the threads that bind it to physical form. The senses dim. The noise of the day disappears. The identity you wear, your name, your story, your face, begins to blur. And in that blurring, something eternal begins to emerge. This is not sleep as you've been told. This is the moment your soul begins to remember. You've been taught that dreams are imagination, that sleep is unconsciousness, that the strange, vivid worlds you visit at night are illusions created by a tired brain. But that's not the full story. Because the truth is, you're not drifting into fiction, you're returning to reality. Not the kind you can measure, weigh, or photograph, but but the kind your soul has always known. The instant your body surrenders to sleep, your soul begins to step beyond the illusion of time. Here, the past and future collapse inward, folding like paper, until only presence remains. You're no longer in a linear story where one thing follows another. You're in a place where all things exist at once, where memory isn't something you recall, but something you step into, and what feels like a dream is often not a fabrication, but a visitation. The soul doesn't walk, it glides, it moves without friction, it responds to intention, to emotion, to resonance. You may find yourself in a place that feels more real than the house you live in. You may meet beings who feel more familiar than anyone you know. You might hear music without sound, see landscapes that shimmer with intelligence. None of it is random. You're not dreaming, you're remembering. Remembering what you've seen before, remembering where you've been, remembering who you were before this life, and who you still are underneath it all. Have you ever woken from sleep and felt the ache of something beautiful slipping away? That strange sensation that you were somewhere important, that you spoke with someone ancient, that you saw something the mind can't explain but the heart refuses to forget. That feeling is not delusion. That's the residue of truth. The soul doesn't operate in language. It speaks in images, emotion, sensation, vibration. So when it returns from its journeys, it doesn't always bring back words, it brings echoes, fragments, feelings you can't shake, insights that arrive without thought, a knowing that wasn't taught, it simply is. And even though your waking mind may label these experiences as dreams, your deeper self knows better. This drifting of the soul is not escape, it's expansion. It's not hallucination, it's homecoming. Each night, you leave the stage of this world and step into the wings of a much larger theater. And while your body rests in the rhythm of breath and heartbeat, your soul continues its dance, fluid, formless, eternal. You visit places that don't exist on any map, realms where time bends like light through crystal, dimensions of color that carry emotion instead of pigment. You see structures built from thought, gardens that pulse with healing frequency, halls of memory lined with symbols you almost understand. You enter these places not because you imagine them, but because they're encoded in your being. They're part of your original blueprint, the map you left behind when you incarnated here. And sometimes, in those moments of deep drift, you see flashes of lives not your own, yet somehow yours. You witness memories playing like film, not from your current life, but from other timelines, other incarnations, other roles you've played in this cosmic theater. These are not dreams. These are soul memories, stored in the field of your consciousness, like seeds waiting for the right soil. The deeper you go, the more the illusion of separation dissolves. You begin to feel the truth of oneness, not as a concept, but as a felt reality. There is no boundary between you and the energy around you. The trees breathe with you, the sky sings to you. You are not observing, you are becoming. And in this space, even the idea of you begins to soften. Not because you are lost, but because you are found. Some nights you may remember these journeys as strange symbols or mysterious stories. Other nights, you remember nothing at all. But even when the conscious mind forgets, the soul does not. It carries what it gathers into your energy field, into your intuition, into the quiet, knowing that steers your choices before you understand why. What feels like coincidence in waking life is often the echo of soul guidance received while you were asleep. You may have been taught that night is the absence of activity, that sleep is the off switch, but in truth, it is the entry point. It's where the veil thins and the gates open. It's where your soul slips through the cracks in the material world and re-enters the infinite. And once you understand that, everything changes. You stop fearing the night. You stop ignoring your dreams. You stop dismissing the sensations that stir just as you're falling asleep or just as you're waking up. You begin to listen differently. You begin to prepare. Not like someone preparing for rest, but like someone preparing for travel. You start to ask different questions before bed. You invite your soul to show you what you need to see. You stop trying to control your dreams, and instead ask to remember what's real. You treat your sleep as a sacred passage, not an end to your day, but a beginning to your remembrance. Because that's what sleep is. It's not forgetting, it's not silence, It's the soft doorway through which your soul steps out, beyond identity, beyond time, beyond the mask you wear in the light. And what it finds there is not fantasy, but truth. A truth too wide for your waking mind to hold. A truth that has been with you since the beginning. A truth that, when remembered, sets you free. When your soul slips past the curtain of sleep and begins its nightly journey, you do not travel alone. You may think you're drifting through random dreams, pieced together by scattered memories or subconscious noise. But there is a deeper layer to what unfolds once the veil is crossed, and in that layer, there are meetings that matter more than anything you've seen with your physical eyes. These encounters aren't products of imagination. They are real, vivid, and often more true than anything you've come to trust in waking life. Beyond the veil of form, beyond the narrative your waking mind clings to, there exists a place not bound by language or time, a realm that hums with intelligence and connection, a realm where energy recognizes energy, where frequency speaks louder than words. This is the astral realm, not the chaotic tangle of abstract thought you've been led to believe, but a precise field of communion. A sacred space where your soul reconnects with others it has always known, those who have walked beside you across lifetimes. Some nights, you'll find yourself in familiar company, though your waking self cannot place them. A woman with ancient eyes, a child with laughter like bells, a figure cloaked in light who speaks without sound. You may not know their names, but you'll recognize them instantly. Their presence hits something deep within you, a knowing so immediate it bypasses thought. These are not figments of your imagination, these are members of your soul family. Your soul family is not made of blood, DNA, or coincidence. It is composed of beings who share the same energetic lineage. Those who have incarnated with you again and again, sometimes as parents, lovers, mentors, friends, other times as strangers whose impact reshaped your path in an instant. In the astral, the roles don't matter, only the recognition does. A kind of gravitational pull toward those who vibrate with a resonance that reminds you who you are beyond your name, your story, your body. You don't always speak in these encounters. Words are often unnecessary. Communication flows in pulses of emotion, waves of color, bursts of frequency that carry more meaning than any sentence could hold. A glance may hold an entire lifetime's worth of memory. A touch may recalibrate you without ever being physical. These exchanges leave imprints, not always remembered, but always felt. You might wake up feeling inexplicably lighter, more grounded, or suddenly aware of a solution you couldn't find the day before. These are the after effects of communion. And then there are the guides. Not symbols, not archetypes, not wishful projections, but beings of intelligence and devotion who walk with you, even when you forget to notice. They do not operate on ego or agenda. Their role is not to command, but to align. When you enter the soul space, they often appear. Sometimes in forms that comfort you, a beloved ancestor, a wise elder, an animal, a shape of light. Other times in forms that challenge your assumptions, not to confuse you, but to wake you up. They don't always intervene. They don't always speak. But when the moment is right, when you've been asking for truth, or aching for clarity, they show up. Their presence feels like a tuning fork, striking the center of your being. You might hear a voice inside a dream that sounds both familiar and otherworldly. You might see symbols or signs too precise to be coincidence. You might feel an embrace that has no arms but leaves you weeping with recognition. These are not fantasies, they are reminders. And the reminder is always this: you are not alone, even in the most confusing dreams, ones filled with strange landscapes or fractured timelines. Look again. Within the surreal, there is often structure. Within the chaos, there is often choreography. Beings guide you through these experiences, even if you don't consciously perceive them. You may think you're wandering aimlessly through shifting scenery, but often, your soul is being led, shown something, prepared for something. The ones guiding you are not limited to this incarnation's understanding. They speak the language of your eternal self, the part of you that remembers why you came here in the first place. And there are allies too, not guides, not family, but ancient souls who walk their own paths and occasionally intersect with yours in the in-between. These beings may appear only once, during a pivotal sleep journey or soul dream. They might come as teachers, showing you how to move light with thought, how to heal through resonance, how to navigate dimensional terrain. They might come as warriors, standing guard during energetic battles you don't remember, but wake from feeling as though something heavy has been lifted. You may not know their names, you may not recall their faces, but you will remember how they made you feel, expanded, empowered, protected, seen. These are not metaphorical visitors. They are real in a way that transcends matter. They may not exist in a body, but they exist in consciousness. And consciousness, after all, is the ground of all being. Sometimes, these encounters leave visible traces. You may wake up with a name on your lips, a phrase echoing in your mind, a vivid image that won't fade. Other times, the experience dissolves, but the frequency remains. You feel different, more whole, more aligned. These shifts are not imagined. They are integration, the merging of something your soul touched with something your body is still trying to understand. And yes, sometimes, the veil thins so profoundly that you wake up in tears, not from sadness, but from remembering, from touching a love so vast it puts all earthly affection to shame. From being in the presence of something so real, so eternal, it makes this world feel paper-thin in comparison. You can't explain it, you can only feel the ache of having seen through the illusion, the ache of returning from home. This is why you must treat your sleep with reverence. It is not a break from reality, it is reality without the distortion of form. Every night, you have the opportunity to return, not just to rest, but to realign, to reconnect with those who are helping you carry out your soul's mission on earth, to remember what your waking self forgets. These encounters are not luxuries reserved for mystics or monks. They happen to everyone. The only difference is that some choose to remember, and some choose to dismiss. But you can begin to remember, not with force, but with intention. Before sleep, you can ask, you can invite. You can set the tone for remembrance. You can thank your guides, even if you don't yet know them. You can open the door to deeper communion by simply acknowledging that you are not dreaming nonsense. You are dreaming truth. And the truth is this: when your soul moves beyond the veil, it moves into sacred territory. And in that territory, nothing is random. The beings you meet, the messages you receive, the energies you exchange, they are all part of your return. A return to knowing, a return to connection, a return to what you've always been, surrounded by those who have always been with you. So tonight, when your eyes grow heavy and the world begins to fade, remember this: you are not falling asleep, you are stepping into a temple, a sacred field, a place where nothing is forgotten. And there, waiting in the silence beyond sound, are the ones who know you, not by your name, but by your light. And they will meet you again, just as they always have. What if I told you that every night, while the world goes dark and your body lies still, your soul steps into a classroom far beyond the reach of logic or language? That while you think you're merely dreaming, something sacred is unfolding behind the veil, something that has the power to reshape your path, your perception, your purpose. You weren't born to walk blindly through this life. You came here to remember, and every night, your soul is trying to teach you how. The dream world is not a fantasy, it's a frequency, a realm woven not from illusion but from essence. And in that frequency, learning happens in a completely different way. It doesn't come in lectures or books, it comes in symbols, emotions, energy, and echoes. While your conscious mind sleeps, your soul awakens to a curriculum designed by something older than thought itself. These are not just dreams, they are lessons from the other side. And the deeper you go, the more you'll begin to feel it, not with your mind, but with your being. Your soul doesn't need classrooms with walls. It doesn't need whiteboards or instructors in front of desks. It learns through direct immersion, through energy exchange, through presence, and sometimes through challenge. Imagine a lesson so powerful that your waking mind couldn't hold it, that your daily awareness would crumble beneath the weight of it. These are the kinds of truths your soul absorbs while you sleep, truths too big for daylight. Have you ever woken up with a feeling you couldn't explain? A deep knowing that something changed overnight, even if you couldn't put your finger on it? That's not your imagination, That's soul instruction. You were taught something while you slept, and even though your logical mind doesn't remember, your vibration does. You don't need to recall every detail for the shift to be real. Some lessons aren't remembered, they're integrated. Slowly, gently, almost silently, they reshape the architecture of your energy field. And this is where spiritual downloads come in. These are not just moments of insight, they're transmissions. They don't arrive through thought, they arrive through frequency. A spiritual download is a packet of wisdom delivered to you in a non-verbal way. A moment where your soul receives something profound and encoded, information you may not be able to explain, but that you begin to become. These downloads often happen in the deep layers of sleep, the moments when your soul is furthest from the noise of this world and closest to the infinite intelligence of Source. You might not realize it in the moment, but you'll feel it, a shift in how you see something, a sudden burst of clarity that wasn't there before, a strange sense of peace that doesn't match your current circumstances, and yet feels truer than anything else. Sometimes these downloads come through visions, dreams, colors, or symbols. Other times, they don't come through imagery at all. They come through vibration, pure energetic, knowing that enters the field of your being and begins to unfold slowly over the days, weeks, or even years to come. You'll know it happened when something inside you starts to change without force. You don't try to think differently, you just do. You don't try to release an old fear, it simply loses its grip. You don't try to understand something, the understanding just rises, like light filling a room. That is the mark of soul learning, not effort, but evolution, not striving, but receiving. But the process of spiritual download doesn't end with reception, it continues with recalibration. Because every new truth your soul receives has to be integrated into your existing energy field, and that requires adjustment. Recalibration isn't always comfortable. You may feel disoriented, emotional, unusually tired or energized without reason. You might feel disconnected from the world around you, or more sensitive than usual. These are not signs of malfunction, they're signs of upgrade. Think of it like a system being updated with new software. Old programs that no longer serve you begin to glitch. Old beliefs begin to resist the new frequencies, trying to hold on to what they've known. And yet, the new energy continues to settle in, gently, but firmly. Your job isn't to fight it or rush it. Your job is to allow, to be present, to honor what your soul is processing, even if your mind doesn't understand it yet. This is the sacred learning that happens on the other side of sleep. It doesn't care about timelines or deadlines. It doesn't demand that you pass a test or recite a lesson. It simply offers you what you're ready to receive, not always what you want, but always what you need. And if you pay attention, the signs will be there. You'll start to see patterns in your dreams, symbols that repeat, themes that cycle through again and again. You'll begin to notice that your emotional reactions to certain people or situations have shifted, even though nothing externally changed. You may find yourself drawn to new ideas, new teachings, new truths, as if guided by a hand you can't see. You may even hear things in your dreams, voices, whispers, songs, that echo in your waking life with strange familiarity. These are not random, these are markers. They're breadcrumbs left by your soul, showing you what's been given to you in the night, because the soul is generous, but it's also patient. It doesn't push you to remember what you're not ready for. It allows the knowledge to surface at the exact moment it will serve your growth. Until then, it lives in your field, reshaping you from the inside out. And over time, you begin to live differently. Not because you read something or studied something, but because you became something new. Your presence changes, your choices shift. Your words carry more weight, your silence feels more full. That's what soul learning looks like. It doesn't shout, it doesn't need applause. It simply transforms you, night after night, lesson after lesson. So the next time you sleep, ask yourself not just, what will I dream, but, what is my soul ready to learn? Invite the download, welcome the recalibration, trust the process. Even if you don't remember the dream, even if the lesson remains hidden, know that something sacred is unfolding. You are being shaped by hands that move in silence, guided by a wisdom that sees beyond your sight. And every morning you rise, you carry a little more of that unseen world into this one. Your dreams are not just stories, they are scripts written by the soul. And while you may forget the plot, you will never forget the transformation. Because every night, the soul enters its temple. And every morning, you return just a little more awake than before. There are mornings when you wake up feeling like you've run a marathon. Your body aches, your mind is cloudy, and your spirit feels stretched thin, as if it has been carrying something you can't name. You glance at the clock, maybe you slept a full 8 hours, maybe more. And yet, instead of feeling rested, you feel like you've been somewhere, and done something, that left a mark on you. That's because you have. While your body rested under warm blankets, your soul was elsewhere, not just observing, not just learning, but working. Actively, intentionally, sacredly. You've been taught to think of sleep as a passive process, a time when everything shuts down and resets. But your soul doesn't require sleep in the way your body does. It doesn't need rest because it never tires in the same way. What it needs, what it craves, is release. Freedom from density, space to move, to expand, to fulfill its greater function. And when it gets that chance, when your eyes close and the veil lifts, your soul doesn't just wander into ethereal gardens and peaceful meadows. Sometimes, it goes straight to work. There are realms beyond waking life that are in constant motion. Places not bound by time, yet deeply interwoven with this reality. These are not imaginary planes. They are real spaces where healing is offered, karma is transmuted, and light is anchored into the grids of consciousness that shape this world. And your soul participates in that effort, not as a bystander, as a contributor. You don't just go there to witness beauty, you go there to hold space, to serve, to realign the very fabric of things. Some nights, your soul works in silence, tending to energetic wounds that others are not yet able to heal in waking life. You might find yourself in what feels like a dream hospital, surrounded by others lying still, while your hands, though not physical, move across them, transmitting frequencies of balance and light. You might be part of a group, a council, an unspoken assembly gathered around another soul who is making a difficult transition. You might be delivering comfort, not in words, but in presence, a radiant stillness that only the soul can offer. And you may not remember any of it. You may wake up, groggy, irritable, unsure why you feel emotionally heavy or deeply moved by something you can't quite place. But the memory doesn't live in your mind, it lives in your field. You carry the echoes of that work with you, even if you can't give it a name. There are other nights when your soul acts as a bridge between dimensions, moving through layers of energy to anchor light in places that are heavy with grief, conflict, or fear. These are not metaphors. There are energetic structures in place that support collective healing on this planet and beyond. Some are breaking down, others are being rebuilt. Your soul knows this terrain. It has walked these grids before. And so it returns to them during sleep, not to observe, but to assist. You've felt it. The nights when you wake with your heart pounding, your body tense, as though you just escaped from something, or protected someone, or shielded a space from collapse. You might brush it off as a nightmare. But what if it wasn't? What if the intensity you felt wasn't fear, but sacred exertion? What if you were participating in something far more real than the roles you play by day? Your soul is not idle. It responds to vibrational calls, the way a healer responds to a cry for help. Some of those cries come from other incarnated beings. Some come from disincarnate souls. Others come from entire collectives of energy that are shifting, struggling, recalibrating. And your soul, with its unique frequency and ancient memory, knows exactly how to respond. This is why you return tired. Not because you failed to sleep deeply, but because you went deeply into places that require your attention. You served, you witnessed, you transmuted. And sacred work, even in the non-physical realms, carries weight. It leaves an imprint. It pulls energy through your field and reshapes it. And although your body may not understand, your soul remembers the service it gave. Some souls are natural transmuters, alchemists of energy. When they sleep, They absorb dense frequencies from collective fields and process them through their own light, not because they are martyrs, but because they are coded to. They agreed to it before they entered this life. And so, night after night, their soul steps into the shadow spaces, not to fix, but to transmute, to take what is heavy and infuse it with light, to meet what is fragmented and offer coherence. Other souls are stabilizers, anchoring peace in volatile, energetic regions. While your body lies in stillness, your soul may be holding the vibration of compassion in places flooded by conflict, or emitting frequencies of harmony where chaos has taken root. You are not just healing yourself when you sleep. You are often holding a space for others who cannot yet hold it for themselves. There are also teachers among you, souls who, during sleep, return to spiritual academies, not to learn, but to instruct, to pass on codes, symbols, frequencies, to younger souls, or even to aspects of yourself from other incarnations who are ready to awaken. These teachings don't happen in words. They happen in vibration, in light geometry, in direct transmission of knowing, and though you may not consciously recall what you taught, you will feel its afterglow, a strange confidence, a sense of inner mastery, a quiet resonance that echoes through your day. And sometimes, your soul does the simplest yet most powerful work of all. It simply shows up. It stands in presence beside another being in pain, without fixing, without advising, just holding space with unwavering love. That alone can change the course of a life. That alone can shift timelines. Never underestimate the power of your soul's presence. Even in sleep, it carries an authority that transcends language. You are not weak for waking up exhausted. You are not broken for feeling the weight of unseen things. You are a multidimensional being doing multidimensional work. And that work is sacred. It matters. It ripples. The key is not to try to control it, but to honor it. Before you sleep, you can speak to your soul, not with expectation, but with openness. You can say, "If I am needed tonight, I am willing. If I am tired, I ask for restoration. If I am to serve, let it be in alignment. And if I am to receive, let it be received with grace." You don't need to remember the details to trust in their reality. Your soul doesn't operate on narrative, it operates on resonance. And every morning you wake, you carry a vibration that reveals what happened, if not in memory, then in feeling. Pay attention to that. The feelings, the shifts, the intuitions that seem to come from nowhere. They are not nowhere. They are from the work you did, the places you went, the light you gave. Sleep is not a retreat. It is an offering, a return to your greater purpose, a return to your soul's full capacity. You may spend your days thinking you're just one person, doing your best to get through. But when you sleep, you remember, you expand, you serve. And in that service, something extraordinary unfolds, not just in other realms, but here, in this world. Your sacred work echoes back into your waking life, transforming the way you feel, speak, and love. So if you wake up tired, thank your soul. It's been carrying more than you know. It's been healing the unseen. And it's been doing it with a grace you've barely begun to remember. There are some dreams you forget within seconds. They slip away like mist the moment you open your eyes, scattered fragments that dissolve under the weight of the waking world. But then there are others, ones that cling to your bones, dreams that don't feel like dreams at all. They arrive with gravity, with silence, with a kind of weight that can't be explained or ignored. You wake up from them changed, even if you don't understand why. You feel it in your chest, in your breath, in the way the morning light suddenly seems sharper. You carry them like a secret, one even you don't fully know how to translate. These are not ordinary dreams, these are visions. The difference isn't always obvious at first. On the surface, both may contain strange images, unusual landscapes, symbols that don't make sense. But look deeper, and you'll sense it. A vision doesn't just visit you, it transforms you. It lingers. It embeds itself in your field. It doesn't shout with confusion. It hums with knowing. You wake from it not with questions, but with a truth you can't yet explain. A feeling that something important just happened, and that your soul, not your mind, was the one who experienced it. Visions aren't born from the chaos of memory or emotion. They are transmissions. They come from somewhere else, or perhaps, more accurately, from somewhere deeper. They carry frequency. They arrive encoded, not in words, but in sensation. The moment you open your eyes, you're not scrambling to understand. You're sitting inside the aftermath. And the more you try to explain it with logic, the further it slips away. Because visions were never meant to be dissected. They were meant to be felt. Have you ever woken up with tears on your face, even though you can't recall what made you cry? Or with an overwhelming sense of peace, love, or reverence that seems to have no origin in this world? That's the soul's signature. It doesn't leave clues in language. It leaves traces in emotion, in frequency, in the texture of your energy. Visions speak to the parts of you that existed before language. They stir the deep wells of remembrance, the ones buried beneath your identity, your thoughts, your personality. They awaken the ancient in you. Sometimes, a vision brings clarity. You might wake up and know something about yourself you didn't know the night before. Not because someone told you, but because you remembered. A truth not taught but retrieved. Other times, a vision brings prophecy, not necessarily of future events, but of future wisdom. It shows you what you are becoming. It holds a mirror up to your potential and says, "This is you, just not yet." And even though you may not recognize the face staring back at you, you'll feel the familiarity in your bones. And then there are the visions that don't come with images at all, just presence, just energy. You wake up and feel as if someone was with you, like something holy passed through your space while you were unconscious. You may not remember a single detail, but the room feels charged, like it's holding a residue of divinity. These experiences are not imagined. They are felt because they are real. The soul moves in ways that defy sensory input. It doesn't need light to see or sound to hear. It receives through resonance. And when it brings that resonance back into your body, your whole system shifts to accommodate what it now carries. The mistake most people make is trying to understand these visions with the analytical mind. But a vision isn't an equation. It's not meant to be solved. It's meant to be absorbed. You don't decode it with intellect. You allow it to live in you like a seed, unfolding in its own time. Sometimes it takes days, sometimes years. You might be walking down a street 5 months from now, and suddenly remember a detail from that vision, a symbol, a color, a sensation, and in that moment, the meaning reveals itself, not because you forced it, but because you were finally ready. That's the thing about soul visions. They operate on soul timing. They don't rush. They don't conform to your calendar. They know when to arrive, and they know when you're open enough to receive what they carry. Your only job is to be a good steward of them, to honor the feeling they leave behind, to treat the space they open with reverence. You may not understand the message right away, but the emotion will guide you if you let it. One of the most powerful ways the soul marks these visions is through a sudden shift in your internal landscape. You wake up and the air around you feels different, or your body holds a new tension or a new ease. Your reactions change. What would have bothered you yesterday now barely touches you. You look at someone and feel compassion where there once was anger. Or you sit with silence and notice it's filled with music you can't hear. These subtle changes are not coincidences. They are integration points, proof that something has landed, even if the mind hasn't caught up. Sometimes, these visions show you your past. But not your past in this life, your past beyond time. You see yourself in different bodies, in ancient places, with beings you can't name, but somehow trust. These aren't fantasy or dreams generated by desire. They are memory, the soul's long, spiral memory that can only be accessed when the noise of the waking world is quiet. You don't always know what they mean, but you know they matter. You feel the pull of them for days, sometimes even a lifetime. And that pull is not meant to be ignored. It's meant to guide. If you've ever felt a calling you can't explain, a sudden need to change your life, a knowing that doesn't come from logic but from some invisible, immovable truth inside you, chances are, a vision planted that seed. You may not remember the moment, but you're living the consequence of it. This is how the soul teaches, quietly, precisely, with love and power disguised as feeling. So start paying attention to what lives in you after sleep. Not just the dreams, but the residue, the colors that won't leave your mind, the emotions that rise for no reason, the sudden clarity, the unshakable peace, the energy that follows you like a shadow with its own language. These are the fingerprints of a vision. This is the echo of your soul speaking. You don't have to chase these visions. You don't have to force them. You only have to welcome them. Create the space. Invite them in. Set the intention before sleep. If there is something I am ready to know, show me in a way my soul can receive. And then trust. Trust that what you need will find you. Maybe not in the form you expect, maybe not in words you can quote, but in the form that matters most, transformation. Because a true vision doesn't just inform you, it becomes part of you. It alters your frequency. It leaves you vibrating in a new key, one that matches who you are becoming. And once your energy shifts, everything around you begins to rearrange itself to reflect that new reality. All from a single moment that arrived in the dark, wrapped in silence, carried on the wings of sleep. These visions are not rare, they are waiting for you to become quiet enough to feel them, still enough to receive them, brave enough to believe they are real. And once you do, everything begins to change. Not because you dreamed something, but because your soul remembered something it was never meant to forget. Each morning, as your eyes begin to open and the weight of the waking world returns, something slips away. It's subtle at first, a faint feeling, a whisper of color, the echo of a place that made perfect sense just moments ago. You might catch a glimpse of a face, feel the residue of a conversation that didn't happen here, but felt more real than anything else. And then, before you can hold it, it dissolves. Like mist under sunlight, your memory of the night evaporates. You sit up, stretch, maybe check your phone. The rhythm of the day begins, and with it, the forgetting. This is not accidental. This is spiritual amnesia. A forgetting woven so tightly into your daily routine that most never even question it. And yet every night, your soul journeys. It travels through realms. It communes, it heals, it receives guidance, it remembers truths older than this lifetime. But by morning, all of that sacred movement is buried under layers of noise. Not because your soul is weak, but because the world you've been born into is designed to drown out the quiet music of the soul. You've been trained to dismiss dreams. From childhood, the language around sleep is mechanical. You're taught that dreams are random, meaningless, mere mental echoes. At best, they're quirks of the brain. At worst, delusions. So you stop paying attention. You stop asking questions. You begin to believe that only what can be touched, measured, and analyzed is real. And yet, the soul does not speak in data. It speaks in vibration, in images, in emotion, in symbols. It reveals itself in ways that cannot be quantified, but can absolutely be felt. The society you live in has placed its faith in logic, in utility, in productivity. And in that framework, sleep is seen as a necessary pause to fuel more output. Dreams are filed away as curiosities, not revelations. You're not taught to honor them, you're taught to override them. The first moments of your morning are often filled not with reverence for what was just experienced, but with alarms blaring, lights flashing, screens glowing. From the second you wake up, your senses are hijacked. And those first few minutes matter more than you think. They are the bridge, the sacred in-between, the place where the soul's memories are still hovering near the surface, waiting to be caught. But when you reach for your phone, when you rush out of bed, when you immediately plug back into the matrix of tasks and urgency, that bridge collapses, the energy shifts. The higher frequency you were just immersed in is overwritten by noise. The channel goes static, and just like that, the messages are lost. Your soul doesn't forget, it never forgets. But your waking mind is a delicate instrument, conditioned to only retain what fits the narrative of waking life. When the soul brings back a dream encoded with light, emotion, or cosmic geometry, the mind doesn't know where to place it. It tries to interpret, it tries to label. Or worse, it discards it entirely. Because in a world that worships what is seen and proven, the subtle language of the soul is too easily dismissed. Stress is another thief. When you wake up already worried about bills, work, relationships, your nervous system takes over. You don't float gently into consciousness, you snap into it. Fight or flight, replaces presence. And the soul's messages, which are soft and fluid and sensitive, cannot survive in that environment. They require stillness. They require a kind of inner listening that stress makes almost impossible. And then there's the constant glow of screens, the blue light, the instant stimulation. Before your feet even touch the ground, you're flooded with images, notifications, comparisons, news. Your energy field is pulled outward before it has a chance to integrate what happened inwardly during the night. It's not just distraction, it's disconnection. You're not just forgetting dreams, you're severing the connection to your own deeper self. Alarm clocks too, sudden, jarring sounds that interrupt your natural rhythm, create shock. The body tightens, the breath shortens, the subtle threads between soul memory and waking consciousness snap. Compare that to a gentle awakening, soft light, calm breath, space to linger in that liminal place between sleep and waking. In those moments, memories are more likely to rise, not as detailed storylines, but as impressions, feelings, a phrase, a symbol, and those fragments matter. They are the trail. Most people wake up thinking, I didn't dream, but that's never true. You did, you always do, but you weren't present enough to catch it. The memory sank before you could anchor it. And without a daily practice of reverence, those soul journeys remain unacknowledged. But just because something isn't remembered doesn't mean it didn't happen. Your soul still traveled. It still healed. It still received messages. The forgetting is not proof of absence, it is proof of noise. What would happen if you approached waking as gently as you approach prayer? If you gave yourself 10 minutes of silence each morning before touching your phone? If you kept a notebook by your bed, not to analyze your dreams, but to honor them? Even a single word or sensation scribbled down in the half-light of dawn can unlock something deeper. It sends a signal to your soul. I'm listening. I'm willing to remember. Because the truth is, your forgetting isn't your fault. It's been conditioned into you. But you can reverse it. You can reclaim the bridge. You can create space for your soul's nightly wisdom to flow into your days. It doesn't require hours of effort, just intention. Just the choice to treat your dreams as something sacred, as something real. When you do, something shifts. You begin to notice patterns, themes, messages that build over time. You wake up feeling guided, not just rested. You begin to trust the intuitive nudges that come seemingly out of nowhere, because you know they came from somewhere, perhaps from a meeting you had last night in the soul space, perhaps from a vision you were given while your body slept. And you'll begin to see that the forgetting isn't just about dreams, it's about identity. Each morning, you are conditioned to forget who you really are. A soul, a traveler, a being of light engaged in an ancient journey. The dream world reminds you, sleep reminds you. But the world wants you to forget, because a person who remembers their soul is not easy to control. They are not easily manipulated by fear, urgency, or distraction. They move differently. They live from a deeper place. So the forgetting is not a flaw. It is a design. And the act of remembering, of catching even one thread from the soul space and weaving it into your waking life, is rebellion. It's power. It's reconnection. Every night, you journey. Every night, your soul speaks. And every morning, you're given the chance to remember. Not perfectly, not always clearly, but enough. Enough to shift. Enough to awaken. Enough to realign with the truth you touch while the world sleeps. And if you begin to remember, even just a little, you'll start to live in a way that reflects those otherworldly truths. You'll see the symbols, not just in dreams, but in your waking life. You'll recognize soul family not just in the astral, but in line at the grocery store. You'll begin to feel that the dream world isn't separate from this one. It's the other side of the same veil, and your soul has never forgotten that. Only now, finally, neither will you. What if I told you that the reason you don't remember your dreams isn't because they're not important, but because you were never taught how to listen? That your soul speaks to you every single night, not in paragraphs or explanations, but in whispers, symbols, sensations, and flashes of truth too delicate for the waking mind to grasp without invitation. The memories are there. The journey is real. The question is not whether your soul is traveling. The question is, are you willing to remember? The first thing to understand is that remembering your soul's journey is not about control, it's about communion. You cannot force recall. You can only create the conditions that allow memory to rise. The soul is not a machine that responds to buttons and commands. It's an ancient presence that responds to reverence. If you want to remember what happens when your eyes are closed and your body sleeps, you must first change how you approach the moment before rest. Not as a collapse, but as a ceremony. Breath is the gateway. Before you sleep, sit in stillness. Close your eyes. Breathe in slowly through your nose. Hold for a few seconds, then exhale gently through your mouth. Repeat this, not as a task, but as an offering. With each breath, release the clutter of the day. Let your body soften. Let your mind quiet. This is not about meditation in the traditional sense. It's about preparing the space. You are tuning your inner instrument so that it can hear the voice of the soul when it begins to speak. Once your breath has slowed and your body is calm, speak your intention aloud or in the silence of your heart. It can be as simple as this: I am open to receiving the memory of my soul's journey. Show me what I'm ready to remember. Then, let go. No expectation, no pressure. Just trust that the request has been heard. This is not a demand, it's a door being opened. Your soul will never withhold what you are ready to receive, but it will wait until the mind has stopped grasping and the heart has started listening. Prayer is powerful here, not as a performance, but as an act of surrender. You are not begging for a dream, you are aligning with your deeper self. You are reminding your consciousness that something sacred is unfolding, and that you are ready to meet it halfway. Prayer is less about words and more about vibration. It tells the universe that you remember who you are, that you honor the journey, that you are awake even in your sleep. When you wake, don't reach for your phone, don't speak, don't move too quickly. There is a delicate thread between the soul's world and this one, and it snaps easily. Stay still, keep your eyes closed if you can. Ask yourself softly, where was I? What do I feel? What do I remember? Don't search for logic. Let the impressions rise like mist, a color, a sound, an emotion, a single word. These fragments are gold. Journaling is one of the most powerful rituals for dream recall, but not in the way you might think. You're not trying to capture a story with a beginning, middle, and end. You're honoring the fragments. Write them down, even if they don't make sense. Even if it's just red light, or climbing a mountain, or felt like I was floating. These are the fingerprints of your soul. The more you write, the more your consciousness learns to pay attention. Over time, fragments become scenes. Scenes become journeys. And even if they don't, that's not a failure. Because remembering isn't about reconstructing an entire dream, it's about tuning in to the feeling left behind, the energy, the frequency. Sometimes, what you remember most isn't what happened, it's how it changed you. A piece that stays with you all day, a burst of creativity, a sense of clarity. These are signs that the soul journey was received, and sometimes, that's more valuable than the memory itself. The truth is, your soul speaks in the language of symbols, not sentences. And symbols don't need to be interpreted the way we interpret books or movies. They need to be felt. If you dream of flying, don't rush to decode it. Sit with the feeling. Did it feel like freedom? Did it feel like escape? Did it feel like coming home? That emotion is the message. The symbol is just the doorway. You don't need to walk through it with your mind. You need to feel your way through it with your intuition. This is where most people get lost. They try too hard to understand. They search for universal meanings in dream dictionaries, or force a linear narrative onto something that was never meant to be linear. But the soul is not trying to make sense. It's trying to reconnect, to remind you. And sometimes, a single emotion felt during sleep is a more accurate guide than 1,000 interpretations. It's not the story that matters, it's the shift. Some dreams may feel confusing, others may seem nonsensical, but the soul knows what it's doing. It gives you only what you are ready to hold. It hides what would overwhelm. It reveals what will awaken. And often, the memory comes days later, in a moment of silence, a flash of déjà vu, a sudden insight that has no obvious source. That, too, is dream recall. That, too, is the soul reminding you. So, trust the fragments. Don't dismiss them. Don't brush them off as meaningless because they're small or incomplete. The soul doesn't work in size or structure. It works in energy. A 2-second glimpse of a doorway can carry more transformation than a 10-minute dream you remember in full. The question isn't how much you recall, the question is how deeply you let it live in you. And if you do forget, don't shame yourself. The forgetting is part of the design. If you remembered everything too soon, you'd be overwhelmed. The veil exists not to block you, but to protect the timing of your awakening. But each night you honor the process. Each time you breathe with intention, pray with reverence, journal with presence, you thin that veil just a little more. Eventually, something beautiful begins to happen. You stop trying to recall dreams, and you start feeling them. You begin to recognize their fingerprints in your choices, your relationships, your art, your healing. You realize that your soul has always been guiding you, that the silence of sleep is not empty, but full of instruction. And you begin to live as someone who remembers, not with the mind, but with the heart. Because remembering your soul's journey isn't about perfect recall, it's about sacred resonance. It's not about collecting details, it's about aligning your life with the deeper truths being whispered to you in the dark. The dreams may fade, the symbols may blur, but the transformation remains. And if you learn to trust that, to honor that, to follow that, then you are remembering exactly what your soul intended all along. There are mornings when you wake up with tears in your eyes, and you have no idea why. The sun may be shining, the room quiet, the world seemingly at peace, yet within you, there is a heaviness, a longing, a sense that something meaningful just ended or was left behind. You can't point to a memory, at least not one that makes sense to your rational mind. But deep inside, you feel it. Something happened, you were somewhere, you were with someone. And now, that moment has faded like mist under daylight. This is one of the first signs that your soul has been traveling in your sleep. Inexplicable emotions upon waking are not random. They are remnants, soul fragments, echoes of experiences that occurred while your body was still. The emotional body retains the residue of astral experiences, even when the conscious mind has no memory of where the soul went or what it encountered. A deep sadness may indicate you said goodbye to someone important on the other side, perhaps someone who no longer incarnates but still meets you in dream time. A sense of profound peace could be the aftermath of healing work, either done to you or through you. The emotion is a clue, a trail marker, evidence that your nighttime hours are not empty. Even joy can feel unusual when it has no obvious source. You may wake up flooded with inspiration, or humming a melody you've never heard, or filled with a certainty about your next step in life. These are signs. Not mental constructs, but energetic transmissions that you brought back from another realm. The reason it feels so foreign is because it didn't originate from the waking world. It came from a deeper space, a soul realm, a place outside of time. You didn't make it up. You returned with it. And then there are the synchronicities. Moments during the day that seem tailor-made, too perfect, too aligned to be dismissed as chance. Maybe you dreamed of a specific symbol, a white owl, a spiral staircase, a name you've never heard, and later that day, you see it in a book, or hear it in a conversation, or feel a shiver run through you when it appears on a billboard. That's not coincidence. That's confirmation. Your soul is showing you the continuity between the dream world and the waking one, revealing that the divide is not as solid as you once believed. Synchronicities tied to dreams are common when your soul has been actively traveling. They serve as breadcrumbs, little nudges that whisper, "It was real, you didn't imagine it." Sometimes the signs come in dreams first, and then appear physically. Other times, something in your day will trigger a flash of a forgotten dream, a conversation, a place, a sound. You feel the déjà vu, you pause, and for a moment, time bends. These are sacred moments. Your soul is speaking, pay attention. There are also the physical signs, not obvious injuries or markings, but a kind of weariness that sleep doesn't cure. A fatigue not born from mental stress or physical exertion, but from movement, the kind that happens when your consciousness leaves the body and navigates other planes. This soul fatigue is difficult to describe, but unmistakable once you've felt it. It's a tiredness that lives in your energy field more than your muscles, a kind of spiritual jet lag. You may wake up and feel like you've been up all night, even though your body never left the bed. You may go through the day feeling as though your emotions are 2 seconds behind your actions. as if your energy hasn't fully reintegrated yet. This is not a problem. It's an indication. It tells you that your soul was doing something important while you slept, whether assisting others, healing yourself, learning, or even helping transition souls between realms. These are not small tasks. They require energetic exertion. Sometimes, you'll notice your dreams don't feel like dreams at all. They feel like memories, not fuzzy or symbolic, but vivid, too vivid. The places feel lived in, the conversations too precise. You wake up and still feel the texture of a surface, the weight of a look, the scent of something not from here. That kind of dream isn't a dream, it's travel. It's your consciousness visiting a realm where those experiences are just as real as this one. And then there's the awareness within the dream itself, lucidity, that sudden, crystalline moment where you realize, I'm dreaming, but instead of waking up, you stay, you explore, you fly. You ask questions, you meet guides, you test the limits of your surroundings, and discover they're responsive to thought. This isn't just fun or fantasy. It's your soul showing you how to operate outside of physical rules. It's you remembering how energy responds to intention. That kind of clarity doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from practice, from previous journeys, from soul memory kicking in. In fact, the more often your soul travels, the more likely you are to become conscious of it. The dreams get clearer, the feelings upon waking get stronger, the synchronicities more obvious, the sense of purpose sharper. You stop waking up feeling like you slept through nothingness. You start waking up feeling like you've lived a second life while the world was quiet. Sometimes, the signs are subtler. Maybe you begin to notice that certain dreams continue over time, chapters that unfold across multiple nights. A house you return to, that you've never seen in real life, but know inside and out. A city with impossible architecture that feels more like home than your current one. Relationships that unfold in dreamtime with a kind of emotional depth that waking connections rarely touch. These aren't dreams in the typical sense. These are astral spaces your soul frequents, and the beings you meet there, they recognize you. They await your return. You might also notice sudden downloads of wisdom. You wake up and know something you didn't know the night before. It could be clarity on a relationship, a solution to a problem, or an insight about your own patterns. You didn't figure it out in your sleep, you remembered it, or you were shown. The soul receives while it travels. It absorbs light, frequency, guidance, and then, like a courier, it brings those messages back into your waking awareness, if you're listening. Sometimes, you'll feel a presence in the room as you wake. Not threatening, just present. Like someone was with you, and their energy hasn't quite left yet. Or you'll feel yourself snapping back into your body, with a jolt, like re-entering a vehicle after being away. These are not tricks of the mind. They are the moment your consciousness re-merges with form. The re-entry. It can feel strange, because your awareness has just returned from something expansive, and now must fit itself back into the small frame of daily life. These signs, emotions, synchronicities, fatigue, memory fragments, lucid moments, are all part of the soul's language. It doesn't speak in English, or logic, or neatly organized timelines. It speaks in sensation, in frequency, in repetition, in resonance. And the more you honor that language, the more fluent you become. You begin to trust what you feel, even if you can't explain it. You start to value what the world calls just a dream, because you know it's anything but. Your soul is constantly working, evolving, connecting. Just because you don't remember every detail doesn't mean nothing happened. The signs are everywhere, in how you feel, in what unfolds, in what stays with you even after the dream dissolves. So the next time you wake up, inexplicably moved, or deeply tired, or caught in the echo of something you can't describe, pause, breathe, listen. You've been somewhere. You've seen something. And even if you can't name it, your soul knows exactly what it was. What if I told you your dreams are not just stories to forget by breakfast, but raw, untamed energy waiting to be shaped into spiritual power? That every night, your soul hands you tools, and every morning, you either use them or discard them without knowing. You're not just sleeping to rest, you're sleeping to receive. And the question is, are you listening? The dreams you carry aren't meant to stay confined to the realm of sleep. They are transmissions, not meant only to be witnessed, but to be integrated. They hold codes, not just for understanding who you are, but for becoming who you're meant to be. But for them to change your life, you have to do more than recall them. You have to live them. You have to let them reach into the soil of your waking life and take root. Integration begins with attention. You can't align with something you ignore. It doesn't matter if you remember a full dream or just a fleeting sensation. What matters is that you treat it as sacred. When you begin your day, take a moment, not to decode your dream like a puzzle, but to feel into it. What is it asking of you? Is there a word that lingers? A symbol that keeps circling in your thoughts? A feeling that won't leave your chest? That's where the power begins, in the willingness to hold space for what your soul sent you. You don't need to understand everything. You don't need to get it right. Spiritual power doesn't come from perfection. It comes from presence. When you treat your dreams as soul messages instead of random fragments, you begin to vibrate differently. You start to approach life with more intention. The energy you received during sleep starts to influence your tone, your decisions, your creativity, your compassion. This is not imagination. This is the beginning of alchemy, the sacred process of transforming dream into embodiment. Let's say you wake up from a dream where you're standing in a forest, surrounded by golden light, with an overwhelming sense of peace. You don't need to know what the forest means. What you need is to carry that feeling into your day. Can you walk through your tasks with that same peace? Can you speak to others from that same frequency? The dream already gifted you the vibration. Your role is to hold it, use it, live it. Every dream carries a vibration, and every vibration holds a choice. You can ignore it, or you can align with it. And when you choose alignment, something miraculous begins to happen. The space between your sleeping and waking self begins to close. You start to feel more whole, more connected, more tuned in. Your intuition sharpens. Your sense of timing improves. You find yourself knowing things without knowing how you know them. That's not coincidence. That's integration. Your intuition is the bridge between your soul's messages and your conscious decisions. It's the language through which dreams speak after you've opened your eyes. That gut feeling you get before taking a new path, that sudden clarity about someone's energy, that creative idea that appears out of nowhere, all of it is fed by the energy you received while sleeping. You don't always have to remember the exact dream for it to guide you. Sometimes, the message slips beneath your conscious recall and flows straight into your instincts. It becomes part of your field, and when you trust that process, you begin to walk differently in the world. You stop doubting the subtle nudges. You stop needing external confirmation for every step. You begin to feel when something is aligned, not because it makes sense on paper, but because it resonates in your bones. This is what it means to turn dreams into power, not by analyzing them endlessly, but by embodying what they awakened in you. Sometimes, dreams will push you. They will challenge your patterns. They will show you what you're avoiding. They may bring up old wounds, shadow aspects, hidden fears. Not to scare you, but to free you. Because what the soul knows is that you cannot evolve while clinging to illusions. So the dream world becomes your sacred mirror, showing you, gently or fiercely, what is no longer in harmony with your becoming. To integrate those kinds of dreams, you don't need to judge yourself. You need to witness, to acknowledge, to ask, what is this revealing to me? What needs to be healed? What part of me is asking for attention? Then, take that awareness into your day. Make a different choice. Offer yourself compassion. Release what's been weighing on you. That's how the dream fulfills its purpose, by becoming action, not just memory. And some dreams, they'll ignite your gifts. They'll show you things that feel beyond your current understanding. Strange symbols, sacred geometry, celestial beings, future timelines. Don't dismiss these. Even if you don't understand them now, they are planting something in you. Let that seed grow. Let it inform your creativity, your art, your service to others. Maybe you share a dream in a conversation, and it unlocks something for someone else. Maybe you create something inspired by the colors or textures you saw. That is integration. That is power. Turning dreams into spiritual power means recognizing that nothing is random. That your soul is not passive in your evolution. It is deeply involved, every night, guiding you, challenging you, loving you forward. The more you align with that truth, the more alive you feel. You're not just reacting to life, you're dancing with it, co-creating, dreaming while awake. One of the simplest ways to deepen this alignment is to ask yourself a single question each morning. What energy did my soul give me last night? Don't try to answer intellectually. Feel it. Maybe it's courage. Maybe it's softness. Maybe it's clarity. Then ask, how can I embody that today? How can I let this soul-given energy shape the way I speak, move, create, love? That's where transformation lives. Not in knowing all the answers, but in honoring the questions your dreams ask of you. The more you live in this way, open, receptive, intentional, the more your dream life expands. The soul starts to trust you with more. You become a student of the unseen, not just in sleep, but in every moment of your waking life. Because the truth is, spiritual evolution doesn't happen in a single flash. It happens in layers, in rituals, in dreams remembered and forgotten, in choices made with your inner compass, not outer approval. And when you let your dreams shape those choices, you begin to live in harmony with your higher self, not someday, but now. So the next time you wake from a dream, don't rush to categorize it. Sit with it, feel into it. Ask, what is this asking of me? What energy does it want me to carry? What part of me is being invited forward? Then let that answer move your day. Let it change how you speak. Let it soften how you see. Let it fuel how you serve. That is the power your dreams carry. Not just messages, but momentum. Not just stories, but instructions. They are not there to entertain you. They are there to evolve you. And the moment you choose to live as though that's true, the moment you act on the sacred echoes of your night journeys, is the moment your waking life becomes a dream worth remembering. Every night, when the world grows quiet and the light begins to fade behind your eyes, something ancient begins to stir within you. You may think you are drifting off into nothingness, into a void of unconscious rest, but that's not what's happening at all. Something far more profound occurs. Every night, you return. Not just to rest, but to remember, to reconnect with what you truly are, to revisit the place you came from before you entered this body, before this life shaped your name, your story, your identity. This return is not symbolic, it is energetic, it is spiritual, and it is deeply real. Your body lies still under the weight of blankets, in the quiet of your room, but your awareness detaches. Your soul, no longer bound by the limits of time and space, begins its journey back to the field of source, back to the realm where language dissolves and truth is felt instead of explained, back to the home you never stopped missing, even if you forgot what it looks like. And this home, it's not a place on a map. It's not in the sky or beyond the stars. It exists in vibration, in dimension, in consciousness. It is the field of unconditional love, the presence of all-knowing, the silence that speaks in light. When you return there, you are not greeted with judgment, questions, or analysis. You are simply known, fully, deeply, intimately. Not as the version of yourself the world sees, but as the light you've always been. You dissolve into it, and it into you. There's no separation, no border. It's the reunion your soul longs for, even when your mind can't articulate the ache. In this space, you don't need to strive or explain. You simply are. Whole, infinite, remembered. The worries of your day fall away like sand slipping through fingers. The pain, the confusion, the striving, they all lose their grip. Here, none of it holds weight. What remains is your essence, the core of you that exists beyond identity. Some nights, this return is quiet. You float in stillness. You rest in peace so deep it can't be disturbed by thought. Other nights, it's vibrant, colorful, alive. You walk through memories not from this life, but from others. You meet beings who feel more like family than anyone you've ever known here. You receive guidance, not always in words, but in sudden understandings that drop into your being like sacred seeds. You remember your mission, not always in a way you can explain, but in the way your energy shifts, in the way you wake up and live a little differently the next day. Because each morning, you come back, you re-enter. You return to the density of this world, to the story, to the roles, to the to-do lists, but you don't return empty-handed. You bring something with you, a frequency, a remembrance, a glimpse of light that you're meant to carry into the waking world. You may not recall the dream, the conversation, the journey, but your soul does. And what it brings back becomes part of how you move, how you speak, how you hold space for others. You may wonder why you feel wiser after a night of vivid dreams, or why a deep peace seems to settle over you for no apparent reason. You may find yourself forgiving someone without needing to relive the pain. You may suddenly know how to navigate a challenge that left you lost just the day before. This is not random. This is integration. This is the soul doing what it's always done. Retrieve truth, return with it, and pour it into your life from the inside out. You are not just a body resting, you are a traveler, a witness, a being of light temporarily inhabiting matter. Each night, you remember this. You take off the cloak of personality, of roles, of name, and step into your full self, the one that predates your birth and will outlive your death. That self does not sleep, it soars, it serves. It sees, it connects, it heals, it loves in ways this world can barely comprehend, and perhaps most profoundly, it prepares. Because each return is not just about comfort, it is also about recalibration. You come back each night to realign, to receive the nourishment, the codes, the healing you need to continue your work here. This world is not easy. Being human is dense, layered, complicated, but your soul came with purpose. You did not arrive by accident. You're not just here to survive, you're here to embody truth, to awaken, to remember. And so each night, you go home. You drink from the well of source. You are reminded of who you are. And each morning, you return, not as someone starting from scratch, but as someone carrying wisdom from a higher plane. You wake up with a new thread to weave into this life. Sometimes it shows up as courage, sometimes as softness, sometimes as the ability to see through illusion and hold space for truth. However it shows up, it's always a gift, a result of the journey your soul made while the world thought you were simply sleeping. Most people never notice. They think dreams are nonsense, forgettable. They treat the night as downtime, as a reset button. But you know better now. You understand the sacredness of the cycle, departure and return, journey and integration. Each time your eyes close, you slip out of the illusion. Each time they open, you bring light back with you. This is how awakening unfolds, not in one great flash, but in countless small returns, night after night, breath by breath. You don't need to remember the details for the transformation to be real. Your soul is not bound by memory. It is bound by resonance. It brings back what you need, not always what you want. And if you slow down enough, if you listen deeply enough, you'll feel it, in the spaces between your thoughts, in the stillness before the day begins, in the knowing that cannot be traced to any experience in this life, but lives in you as if it always has. You are a traveler. And every night, you are welcomed back into the arms of the infinite. Not to escape this world, but to empower your role in it. You are not here to run away, you are here to bridge. To bring the frequencies of that home space into this one. To walk through your days as a vessel of something greater. And that is exactly what you're doing, even if you forget, even if you doubt, even if it takes everything in you to keep going. Because each return strengthens you, refines you, prepares you for what you're becoming. You are not just dreaming, you are remembering, you are reweaving. And even now, as you read these words, your soul knows. The great return is not just at night. It's every moment you pause, breathe, and allow yourself to feel the truth beneath the noise. You are always connected, always guided, always held. So the next time you wake and feel something you can't explain, lightness, sorrow, wonder, exhaustion, don't dismiss it, honor it. It is the echo of your journey. A reminder that you've been somewhere sacred, and that now, once again, you've returned. Not just to live, but to embody what your soul brought back.